Okay, so we have some pretty big news coming from the President of the United States himself on New Year's Eve. It's being reported straight from him. We are removing the National Guard from Chicago, Los Angeles, and Portland, despite the fact that crime has been greatly reduced by having these great patriots in those cities. And only by that fact. Portland, Los Angeles, and Chicago were gone if it weren't for the federal government stepping in. We will come back, perhaps in a much different and stronger form, when crime begins to soar again. Only a question of time. It is hard to believe that these Democrat mayors and governors, all of whom are greatly incompetent, would want us to leave, especially considering the great progress that has been made, straight from the president himself. Now, just to clear up some confusion about the Guard being deployed to Portland, the president is referring to the fact that troops were ready to go to Portland. However, there was a lot of pushback, a judge who said you cannot deploy to Portland, so that's what he's referring to. The National Guard never officially made it to this specific ICE building in Portland, but they were on standby. And the troops in Oregon were specifically getting ready for this particular deployment, because troops are technically always on standby, getting ready for some sort of mission, or always training. But the troops that the president is referring to, they were getting ready to go to Portland, but again, they just never made it. Now, speaking of Portland, what exactly is happening right now with this Portland ICE situation? I'm sure everyone is aware a lot of the attention was on protesters and federal agents clashing at the Portland ICE building. Well, the story has really expanded beyond the borders of the ICE building. The story is really more about ICE agents doing field operations, and a lot of these protesters or observers, they've just been moving away from the building and following agents or tracking what they're doing.
We have an active investigation. We're conducting an arrest.
What the fuck?
You guys are pieces of shit, though. You guys ain't cops? What the fuck are you?
No fucking cops. Why you
The
guys
fuck
say
are you?
police?
You guys are... ¿Cómo se llama, doña? ¿Cómo se llama?
Let us know when
¿Cómo se llama, compa? A la
Hijos
verga
de su
con estos
pinches
hijos de su
putos.
puta
Hijos de la
madre.
verga.
You
Go to
already
Cali,
shot me,
bitch.
motherfuckers.
And by the way, if you haven't already, make sure to please like the video. It's the #1 way you guys are helping this channel. It also helps others see the videos as well. It's a massive help, and we have been covering this Portland story since June. Almost every week we talk about Portland, so it helps out a lot, and I want to make sure people know what's going on here. Now, interesting enough, none of the protesters have ever gone on camera and said, we have really left the ICE building and we're doing other things. However, very recently, the BC Preacher, please go follow him on X, go follow him on Facebook as well. He is one of my favorite journalists on the ground in Portland. He does amazing work, go follow him. He managed to capture this clip.
But this is fucking pointless at this point.
So would you say that the protest is pretty much dead?
No.
No, you think it's live?
No, we have a whole bunch of other shit in the works that does nothing to do with y'all.
So
we're not working on the ground right now. It's too cold. Feds don't come out as much. We have plans for the spring, and we have things in the works, yeah.
So when you...
Most people that I know have been consistent since June, have had their plans, or are doing work in other places in their community,
right,
or have plans to come back and have things in the works that are going to be bigger for the summer.
So why is that interview significant? Well, it gives us an indication that protesters are doing other things, and yes, it's getting cold, but also when you review the footage that's happening outside in the greater Portland area, and you see some of the faces that you recognize from the Portland ICE building, it's very easy to start connecting the dots that a lot of these protesters or advocates, they're doing other things. Because standing in front of the ICE building, like you just heard in that clip, it doesn't necessarily do much if the federal agents are not leaving the building. So a lot of protesters have decided to venture out, be a part of their community, and start to push back that way. In fact, I want to show you guys, all of a sudden in Oregon, we are starting to see different counties and areas declare states of emergency because of ICE activity. Throughout the entire period from June to October, when we saw all of the clashes between ICE agents and protesters, this never happened. But then when protesters started to leave the area, started to go out into their communities, get involved, now we're starting to see all of these states of emergencies.
While Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson has just declared an emergency in response to ongoing ICE activity. Officials say the declaration will provide the county with increased flexibility and direction as it continues to deal with, quote, harmful U.S. immigration and customs enforcement activity. For example, the declaration will make it easier for the county to request emergency help from the state and will ensure that Multnomah County agencies continue to comply with the state's sanctuary statute.
And obviously, this is a very big deal to advocates or protesters. What means more to the movement of pushback? Standing in front of the federal building or getting an entire county to declare a state of emergency? I will let you guys decide. But in my opinion, and what I have been reporting and observing, there seems to be a direct correlation of the lack of protesting has extended to the more of this ICE tracking or more policies being changed in different counties throughout Oregon. Okay, now from here, I want to circle back to the BC preacher. He has an amazing video I want you guys to see. And again, go support him on X and Facebook. Go follow him. Check out this clip. He shows us what's happening currently on the ground at the Portland Ice Building.
You guys, it's Monday, December 29th, Portland, Oregon, 6:15 p.m. I'm down here at the Portland Ice Facility, and you see what's around me in the background? You see all this? Nothing. There's nothing down here. In fact, look at that. It's dark. 6:15 p.m., Monday, December 29th. There is nothing happening down here.
There's a reason why the BC preacher has that tone in his voice, and he's pointing out, look at this, it's dark. Remember, this has looked like a war zone for quite some time, and he's simply pointing out the fact that the posture from the ICE building themselves, the posture meaning, are they in a defensive posture? Are they ready to block off protesters? This is a very lax posture. The fact that the floodlights are shut down, this is day and night compared to what this facility had to go through and these federal agents. And again, this is why I highly suspect that the Trump administration is telling the National Guard, stand down as of right now, because it looks like things are under control.
That means it's a wrap.
Yep.
It's done. Mission accomplished. You have one thing over here on the corner right behind me under the building, under the awning. I'll go over there and see what's going on, but there is absolutely nobody down here. There is no floodlights on top of the building.
This is also very significant because Kristi Noem said we're going to be awarding $4 million to this facility. So just keep that in mind as well. I mean, these officers are not complacent. They know anything can happen, but the fact that the building doesn't have floodlights on and it looks like a very lax posture, you don't even have the agents on top of the building. Again, BC Preacher was really able to capture a moment a lot of people are not realizing and a lot of people are not seeing why this is a big deal.
It's completely dark. No presence down here whatsoever. Look over here.
Again, I highly advise go follow the BC Preacher. He has been in the trenches and has been doing this for a long time as far as his coverage with these types of events. So thank you so much for your hard work and Happy New Year and God bless. Now, I also want to show you guys why I think a lot of protesters are shifting the way that they are protesting or advocating against ICE, because the numbers simply speak for themselves as far as how much work has been done in Oregon. Oregon saw at least 1,100 immigration arrests in 2025. Now, to some of you, you might be thinking that number doesn't sound that high, but when you look at the landscape of Oregon, that is a very high number, considering logistically speaking, very difficult to navigate around Oregon. You only have a certain amount of time or a certain window in Oregon as far as how the weather will cooperate with agents. And even under the headline, it says arrests in Oregon in 2025 almost 10 times as high as previous years. So this is a very high number considering. So keep that in mind that a lot of advocates, they do keep track of this type of information. And if you're an advocate, again, why would I stand in front of an ICE building when, all of this standing around, all of the clashing, all of the people getting arrested, the numbers again speak for themselves in the favor of ICE as far as how much work they were able to get done in Oregon, which is why we are probably seeing an influx of more clips extending beyond the ICE building as far as ICE tracking, ICE protesting, and advocacy within city councils. Now, the other reality of the situation for the Portland ICE building, we might have other Portland ICE buildings in Oregon. And there has been a lot of investigations, a lot of protesting, a lot of pushback as far as this new ice building. We simply don't know where it's going to be. We're being told it could be in Newport, which is on the West Coast. We're being told there could be some sort of facility at the Portland airport. Again, a lot of these are rumors, but still, it takes a lot of the focus away from the Portland ice building, and advocates, protesters, again, why waste your time standing in front of this building when there is other work to be done on the ground? With the influx of deportations and arrests, there has to be some way to house all of these illegal immigrants, and ICE, they do need a facility really bad in Oregon. They don't have a long-term facility. What you see at the Portland ice building, that is a short-term facility for about 12 hours, and then from there, you get moved away to wherever in the country. So keep that in mind as well. We're probably not seeing a lot of protesters in front of the ice building because of another ice building that might pop up somewhere else. Now, I want to segue to this story. I'm going to let the video speak for itself. I'm curious how you guys feel about this.
Well, during this year's protests outside the South Portland ice facility, many demonstrators brought with them a touch of whimsy by dressing in inflatable animal costumes. One in particular blew up, becoming a viral symbol of nonviolent resistance worldwide, in fact. The frog. Now, Willamette Week has named that frog Portlander of the Year. To break it all down.
That's right. The Portland Frog has won Portlander of the Year. Portlander of the Year is what they're calling it.
Down for us, we are joined by Willamette Week's editor, Aaron Mesh. Nice to see you, Aaron.
It's good to be here.
So what was the thought behind a Portlander of the Year?
Well, originally, as the year began, we had this idea, we put it on the calendar, that we would choose a single person who, for good or ill, most influenced the city over the course of the year.
That's very interesting. For good or for ill. Okay.
And sometime around mid-October, we began to realize that it really wasn't a single person. It was sort of really a symbol that had become something that that stood for what Portland was seen in the national press as, and how Portlanders saw themselves. Sort of amphibious Spartacus, I guess you might say. It was the frog.
The frog, or as he refers to himself, the toad. So what was it about the frog/toad that...
And I am curious if you guys know anything about the Portland frog or the toad, if you guys have seen any other stories about him. I will say a lot of conservative media who has been covering this story are not too happy with this pick, but you guys can go and do your own research as to why that is. I've already done a whole video, I think, on him, and this particular news agency has also talked about him as well in a separate report.
Really blew up so much internationally.
It's funny. I feel like when we talk to people who have embraced this symbol, what they saw in the frog, in this inflatable costume, was some kind of throwback to Portland's weird, funky, odd, irreverent style of being, almost as if like the Cacophony Society had returned.
Now, I am curious who he talked to, because the people that I talked to, and I am well aware of that position, but the people that I've talked to and what I have seen reported is that federal agents were not the biggest fans of these costumes because it was a way to deflect pepper balls, or a way to get in the way of other protesters to protect them from pushing back against federal agents. So just so you are aware, the position from the Trump administration and some conservative media, not the biggest fans of the suit themselves, not in the aspect of it being a frog or what it looked like, but in the aspect of taking advantage of the narrative and physically trying to block off agents by simply dressing up as a frog.
The original founders of SantaCon.
Those are the accusations.
Or the zoo bombers who rode their bicycles fast down the hill. I think there was this sense that there was a way to bring that sense of whimsy or humor to a place that had been a little bit miserable and humorless during its protest against Donald Trump.
Okay, so leave your comments down below how you feel about the Portland frog story. I am very curious how you guys feel, and it is true. A lot of global news outlets were talking about him and the antics behind the Portland Frog, and the other inflatable costumes. Now, I do want to reiterate, the Portland story is not over. Although the Portland ice building story has really slowed down, I think the majority of people know that for anyone who's been paying attention to Oregon or Portland, but the story has not slowed down beyond the Portland ice building. Again, we are seeing something in Oregon that we've never seen before in other states. The accumulation of these counties or areas in Oregon having ice as a state of emergency, or saying, we're in a state of emergency because of ice. That has happened before. And by the way, I'm not talking about weather. I'm talking about Homeland Security. This has happened before, but not on the scale of what's happening in Oregon. This reactive way to let people know that we know Homeland Security is in the area, thus we have a state of emergency. And with my research and in my opinion, we really started to see this after the lack of protesters were showing up to the Portland Ice Building. All of a sudden, we started to see more of these states of emergencies. So again, this is why I think the story has really evolved to beyond the borders of the ice building. And look, if there's not a lot of action going down in Portland, you heard it straight from the president himself, the Guard won't be there. But the president is confident there will be action at some point, thus the Guard may be redeployed or get ready for a deployment. So we'll see what happens. And I really appreciate all of you guys for all of your support, for subscribing, for liking, and really helping me through this Portland story. We have been covering it since June. I have made a lot of friends. I have learned a lot from this story. And this story, I do think, will be here for quite a while. It's just evolved a little bit. So thank you again for everything, and please pray for peace. We do need that right now, and I always try to be as fair as possible. I hope I was able to do that for you guys. Thank you again for everything. Happy New Year's. God bless, and we'll see you all later.